Hey ladies, I want to start with a word of welcome. I am so glad that you have joined us for week 2 of our I Am study. My name is Jamie, and I'm so thankful to be here with you. This is the first time that I've been a part of a Central Women's Bible Study, and I'm so excited to be here to share with you. Last week, we had the privilege of hearing from Sherry on being favored by the Lord and the excessive kindness and partiality that He gives to us of love, grace, mercy, so undeserved, but so willing to give it to us because we are favored. I'm so thankful to know that now, but I wanted to talk to you about a word that unfortunately shaped and defined who I was, and not all of the words that God says I truly am. I wanted to take you into that journey right now as I just share my story. This is a teaching. This is really just me sharing my heart and my story and what I'm learning day by day, as this is all just new for me, of coming to grips with my own story and how the Lord can change the foundation of who He says I am and me believing that day by day. So let me tell you about the word that has shaped me. The word is dirty. It's defined my thoughts of myself and my story. It has shaped my worth or lack thereof for a really long time. I've allowed the hurt inflicted on me throughout my life to be blamed on myself, by myself and by others. I've allowed shame to become my nearest and dearest friend. I've shamed myself. I've used the Bible to shame myself, and I've perceived that others would do the same, and I have experienced some of that. Dirty. That didn't just seem like a characteristic of my circumstance or some unique part of my personality. For me, it literally felt like who I was. And that's been the internal narrative of my life, and one that I'm determined now to change. I am here with you today just simply as a woman desperately trying to carry her own story and telling it now for only the third time in hopes to create a better one for myself and give others the permission to do the same. At 8 years old, when I was sound asleep in my room, someone entered my room, closed my door, and then locked it behind them. This was someone from my church. My parents were pastors and continually had people over, so it didn't surprise me that they were over, but it surprised me that they had come in my room. They came in saying they wanted to play games with me. These were not games that I knew, and ended up being games that I did not like. But I was confused and I was scared. I've blocked out exactly how many nights that happened and over how long of a period of time, but I am telling you, it was many times, and it felt like it went on for years. As a young girl, I knew that people got molested, and I knew that they were supposed to speak up. But my situation seemed so out of the normal. It seemed so especially dirty and so especially confusing, because the person from my church that would come into my room was a young woman. I hated her. I hated what was happening, but I didn't speak up because of fear of what everyone would think of me. I was honestly afraid that it was my fault, that somehow I had brought it onto myself. And the longer I went on not telling people about it, the more I felt a part of it, like a co-conspirator to my own abuse. I was afraid that people would treat me different if they knew. I was afraid that they would look at me different. And honestly, I'm still afraid of that now. I was afraid that if people knew, they would be too grossed out to even be near me or to touch me. And I still feel that way now. I've always told people, oh, I'm not a hugger. I actually don't know if that's true of me. I just know that that's who I became because I felt dirty and unworthy. And that if people knew my story, they would agree. I was afraid that I would lose every friend if they knew. I was afraid that my parents would blame themselves because I didn't blame them. It was me. It was my fault. I was dirty. At the age of 18, I started dating someone and it got serious really quickly. I was hurting, I was vulnerable, he was not a good person, but I was dirty, so it was a good fit. We were engaged after 6 months, and during our engagement, I told him about the abuse that I went through. He was the only person who knew. After 10 years after the abuse, I was finally able to be vulnerable enough to share, and unfortunately, it connected me to an unloving and emotionally abusive man. I was afraid to ever break up or leave because of what might happen to me, and I was especially afraid that he would share my story. At the age of 19, I was married. I thought that getting married may help me overcome the pain that tormented me, the pain that covered me in shame, that getting married would reshape the thoughts that I had that I was dirty and damaged. I would get married, have a home, start a family, and just finally, for the first time, be normal. My husband, the one person I had confided in, ultimately would use my story against me. He would shame me about my past and how it made me not meet his needs. When I would say no to something that made me uncomfortable, and then I would cry after an intimate encounter because he would violated what I had said no to, or because I felt faceless and unloved by him, he would scoff at how damaged I was. He would betray my trust time and time again with lies, deceptions, manipulations about one thing or another. He would break our vows and then tell me it was my fault. I made him have to do it. I would often find myself in the same mindset as I did when I was a girl, confused, scared, and sadly, silent. After 18 years in that marriage, on December 1st of 2015, I finally developed the courage to leave. But my shame continued. Because a life of sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse by a stranger, and then by a man who said he loved me, it finally solidified my thoughts. I was dirty. In March of 2017, 31 years past my childhood abuse and a year and a half into my separation and divorce process, I went on a trip to Israel, Palestine. On day one of our trip, the trip leader said, "We've brought you here so that you can carry other people's stories." And my spirit broke. I thought to myself, I can't carry other people's stories because I don't even know how to carry my own. I was then useless to our group for the next 3 days. I was in a whirlwind of introspective processing and outward crying. On day 3, we sat in Bethany above Lazarus's tomb. Our group was doing a devotion. We were supposed to read a portion of scripture, and then we were prompted to ask God, what was he asking of us? But all I could do was ask God, what did he want me to do with this revelation that I had? And I felt like he spoke 3 words to my heart, and I wrote those words down. Tell your story. As I sat looking at those words, I cringed, and I wrote 3 words back. Lord, help me. I wrestled with it once I got home. Why, Lord? What for? How would me telling my story change anything? It would be the scariest thing I'd ever do. But I knew something had to change. So I told my children, a few close friends, and some family. I was amazed at how bit by bit the shame started to fall away. how the power of the dirtiness started to get wiped clean. How the ability to overcome fear allowed me to see truth and allowed me to overcome perceptions. A few months later, after being home from that trip and coming to grips with my story, I heard a song on the radio that rocked my world. I knew it was the Lord's message for me. I knew this was the why. This was the what for. This is what would change everything. Because I realized the only thing to change in my story is how I see myself. That things can only change if I would dare to see myself like Jesus sees me. The song is called Clean by Natalie Grant. Every word of it was like God speaking right to my heart, speaking truth into every lie that I had believed. I listened to it more times than I can recount, and it brought me to tears every time. Because ladies, this is where the story changes for me. This is where a new word will begin to define my narrative. I'm not scared anymore. I'm brave. I'm no longer confused. I know I deserve better. And side note, I am a newlywed and happily remarried to the most loving and godly man. Back on track. I will no longer be silent because I have a voice and it matters. I am favored. I am chosen. I am enough. I am a masterpiece. I am robed. I am complete. I am free. And I am not dirty. I'm clean. I wanted to take you into a personal moment with me right now and share the song Clean with you. It won't be perfect. I haven't played piano in forever, especially not in front of anyone. It's my own secret little personal way of connecting with God. We're doing this all in one take, so there's no fancy edits. So this is just me being real. Real in my story, real in my imperfections, real in the way that I've defined myself, and real in the fact that I'm determined to live and think differently. I'm going to end our time on the song. So before I do that, I want to encourage you as you dive into the Bible study this week, as you come back next week to hear from Jenny Marie sharing about being chosen, that you would join me in the challenge to live and think differently, to see ourselves how God sees us.
Your